The sky above Ugbala village was blood orange the day Princess Uzuma was born, as though the heavens were torn between mourning and celebration. A child had entered the world, one whose beauty glimmered like moonlight on river water, but at a terrible cost. The queen, beloved by all, drew her final breath moments after cradling her newborn daughter. The king, Igwe, once a proud and joyful ruler, crumbled that day. He held baby Uzuma against his chest, tears carving lines through the paint on his face. The palace women whispered that the baby was cursed. How could she not be, when her first act on earth was to steal away the queen? But Igwe refused to believe that. "This girl is not cursed," he said, voice like thunder. "She is the last gift from the woman I loved." He named her Uzuma, meaning destiny's path, and for the next 3 years, she was his light, his reason, his joy. But the traditions of Ugbala were as old as the trees that shaded its sacred grove, and the people began to murmur. A king without a son had no successor. The throne needed a male heir. And so, with a reluctant heart, Igwe married again. Her name was Queen Niora. Where the first queen had been warmth and laughter, Niora was icy poise and serpentine grace. Her eyes never softened when they looked at Uzuma. Not once. She bore him not a son, but twin daughters, Urema and Oliaku, both as lovely as a blooming flame tree, and just as dangerous. And when no sons came, the queen's patience shattered. She turned her bitterness toward Uzuma like a knife. The palace of Ugbala, once echoing with songs of praise and celebration, had grown cold. The drums that used to call villagers to feast now lay silent. The royal garden, once vibrant with hibiscus and flame lilies, was overrun with thorny weeds. And in the heart of this fading glory stood a girl, no longer dressed in silk or bathed in scented oils, but clothed in rags and dirt. Uzuma. She was only 10 when her world cracked open. It started small. The palace cook stopped serving her at the royal table. The maids stopped dressing her hair. She was asked to eat outside. Then came the orders: clean the floors, fetch the water, go to the bush and gather firewood. She didn't understand it at first. She still called the king Papa, still greeted the queen with bent knees, still played gently with the younger twins. But Queen Niora never hid her disgust. "This one is a shadow," she told her daughters. "She is not one of us. She brings shame, not power." Niora's daughters, Urema and Oliaku, copied their mother's venom with precision. They would spill palm oil on Uzuma's bedsheets and blame her for messes. They laughed when the guards looked away, while she was slapped for imagined offenses. And the king, where was he? Igwe was slowly retreating from the world. Some said grief still haunted him. Others whispered that Queen Niora had laced his palm wine with something dark. He stopped speaking at length, then stopped speaking at all. His eyes, once full of fire, dulled to emptiness. He wandered the palace like a ghost. Until one day, he vanished. They said he had gone on a sacred journey. Others said he was dead, lost in the bush, taken by spirits. But no one saw a body. No burial. No answers. And just like that, Queen Niora claimed the throne. "She cannot rule," a few elders dared whisper. "She is not of royal blood." But those elders disappeared one by one. A new figure began appearing in the palace grounds, a hunched, beady-eyed man with skin the color of cola bark and a staff covered in black feathers and red strings. He was Danda, the witch doctor. With him came fear. It was said he could tie your voice in knots, make your crops rot from the roots, summon fire from palm fronds. And it was he who strengthened Queen Niora's rule. "She is no longer just a woman," Danda declared. "She is a chosen vessel of the gods." And so, the people of Ugbala bowed. Even as taxes rose, even as the market women were whipped for speaking too loudly, even as the festival of New Yam was cancelled for spiritual reasons, no one protested. And at the heart of it all, Uzuma remained, a forgotten princess. Now 13, she woke before the sun each day, fetching water from the stream a mile away, her bare feet calloused and cracked. She was the only one sent to fetch firewood deep in the forbidden forest, where spirits were said to roam. She ate the leftovers of leftovers, if anything at all. But still, she endured. Her spirit never broke, even when her body did. One day, she sliced her foot on a jagged stone while carrying firewood. Blood soaked the path behind her. She limped all the way back, and still the queen whipped her for being slow. Still, she endured. Even when the villagers whispered she should have died like her mother, she kept going. Why? Because of a memory. A single memory she clung to like a flame in the cold. Her father, holding her as a baby, whispering in her ear. Your name is Uzama, and you will walk a great path. No one can erase who you are. And deep in the shadows of Ugbala, something stirred. Destiny does not sleep forever. And neither do the gods. It was the season of the Harmattan wind. Dry and dusty air swept through Ugbala, whitening the trees and cracking the lips of every villager. Yet despite the scorching dryness and ghostly hush in the air, the village buzzed with one word. The prince is coming. Prince Abina of Umudike, the crown jewel of their neighboring kingdom. Word had it he was tall, strong, handsome enough to make maidens forget how to breathe, and wealthy beyond imagination. His father had sent him out to search for a bride, not just for love, but for alliance. Ugbala, though growing weaker under Queen Neora's oppressive rule, was still a strategic prize. And a royal marriage could mean protection, trade, and political strength. Queen Neora, clever and ever ambitious, had only one plan. Urema, her eldest daughter, groomed like a prized goat for sacrifice, was made to bathe in scented herbs, her skin rubbed with shea butter and camwood every morning. Her hair was twisted into golden beads. She was forbidden from stepping outside without a veil to protect her complexion. You are to look divine, the queen instructed. A prince must never forget the first time he lays eyes on his future queen. The day Prince Abina arrived, Ugbala trembled with excitement. A line of horsemen, dressed in turquoise and gold, rode into the village with music pouring from drums and flutes. Villagers stood at attention, children peeked from behind baskets, and even the priests stood in silence. Then came the prince himself, mounted on a white horse, his eyes scanning the crowd with regal curiosity. He had the kind of presence that made people bow without realizing it. Queen Neora stood waiting at the palace entrance with Urema at her side, every inch the perfect hostess. My prince, she cooed, bowing dramatically. You honor us. I come in peace and in search, Abina said, his voice deep and smooth like palm wine. Let the gods lead me. And so began his visit, a feast prepared, dances performed, conversations exchanged. Abina was shown every part of the village except the truth. He was not told of the suffering, the fear, the absence of the king, or the girl in rags sweeping the back of the palace with swollen fingers. But fate has its own sense of drama. 3 days after the prince's arrival, he asked for a quiet ride outside the village, just to clear his mind. No entourage. No noise. As he rode through a narrow path between the trees, where the scent of wild lemongrass hung heavy, he saw her. Uzama. She was barefoot, skin sunburned, carrying a basket of yams on her head. Her wrapper was torn at the hem, her braids frizzy with dust. Sweat clung to her collarbone. Yet her eyes, those eyes, were like stars trapped in a storm. Fierce, sad, and breathtaking. She didn't bow when he stopped. She didn't smile. She simply looked at him with wary, tired defiance. Who are you? He asked, stunned. I am nobody, she said quietly, not stopping. That made him freeze. Because something about her voice, the way she walked with quiet strength, the way her pain didn't beg for pity, it shook him. He turned his horse. Wait. What's your name? She hesitated. Uzama. He whispered it like a prayer. That is not the name of a nobody. She laughed bitterly. Tell that to the queen. From that moment, Abina couldn't get her out of his mind. He kept visiting the edges of the bush. Kept looking for reasons to walk alone. And each time, he found her. And each time, they spoke a little more. He learned of her pain, without her telling the whole story. He saw the scars on her hands. The hunger in her cheeks. But he also saw the courage in her posture. The wit in her words. The intelligence hidden beneath the dirt. Urema noticed. And so did Queen Neora. And what the queen saw in Abina's eyes when he looked at Uzama. Danger. Night in Ugbala no longer felt sacred. Once, the full moon had been a time for songs, for lovers sneaking into each other's arms, for the flicker of fireflies in the grass. Now it was a time of silence, shadows, and fear. And deep within the palace chambers, Queen Neora stood barefoot before a wooden altar slick with dried blood and feathers. A thick, dark mist wafted around her, and in her hand was a calabash filled with blackened cowrie shells. Across from her sat Danda, the witch doctor, eyes rolling back into his skull as he muttered words in a language no longer spoken by mortals. She is a threat, the queen hissed. I feel the prince slipping from Urema's grasp. It is her. That bastard child is poisoning him with her cursed face. Danda's voice came out slow and rough, like gravel under water. Then sacrifice her. Queen Neora's eyes gleamed. You mean it? I do not speak for pleasure, woman, he spat. You want to keep your throne. You must give the deity a heart. Her heart. The one born of death. That will bind your rule in blood and silence your enemies forever. The room fell into a hush so dark it seemed even the spirits were listening. 2 guards were summoned at midnight. Loyal to the queen. Brutal. Silent. She met them in the courtyard. Her voice was low but firm, like a snake sliding through dry leaves. Take her, she said. Take Uzama to the sacred bush. Kill her. Cut out her heart. Bring it back to me before the cock crows. Fail, and your heads will be the offering instead. The guards did not question her. They bowed, grabbed their machetes, and vanished into the shadows. Uzama was already asleep on a reed mat outside the kitchen, curled against the cold, when rough hands seized her. She screamed, but only once. One guard slapped her so hard her lip split. They tied her hands and dragged her through the silent palace gates, down the narrow path into the bush where no one ever dared go alone. Her heart pounded like a war drum. She could smell blood in the air, and not just her own. The trees whispered warnings. She stumbled. Fell. Got back up. Please, she begged. What have I done? At least tell me. Silence, one guard growled. They reached a clearing just before the edge of the dark forest. An owl hooted once. Then silence. The second guard raised his machete. Uzama closed her eyes. But the blade never came. Go, the first guard said, yanking her roughly to her feet. What? She gasped. I said run, he hissed, slicing the rope from her hands. Follow the stream north until you find the river. Cross it. Never come back. If you do, you'll die. She stared at him, stunned. Why are you helping me? The guard didn't look her in the eyes. Because I once served your mother. She was the only good queen we ever had. And you look just like her. Then he shoved her. Hard. Go, girl. Run. And she did. She ran until her legs screamed. Until her lungs gave out. Until the wind ripped tears from her eyes. Branches tore at her skin. Thorns clawed her feet. But she ran. Behind her, The guard slaughtered an antelope and cut out its heart. He wrapped it in cloth and brought it back to Queen Neora, who danced with delight when she saw the blood. The deity will be pleased, she said. But the gods, the real gods, they were not pleased. Not at all. By morning, Uzuma had crossed the river. Her legs buckled on the far side, and she collapsed beneath a tree. Her body was battered, starving, barely alive. But she was alive. She whispered to herself, I'm still here.